Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourself, Banking and General Knowledge, etc. Memoir of My Banking Journey by Mr. V.H. Ramakrishnan, retired General Manager of Bank of India. Episode number 3. The chapter Nigerian Experiences is continuing. The link of earlier episode is available in description. Lunches and dinners. Before I left for Nigeria, Mr. Rege had told me that I should not avoid the dinner invitations of customers. He said that it was the only way to know what is happening in the market. Before I proceed further, I have to tell you that our customer profile consisted of Sindhis and Nigerian businessmen. There are also a few businessmen of other communities like Gujaratis, but 75% of our business was with Sindhis. These Sindhis were mainly in trading and industry. There were large textile factories run by well-reputed groups like Chanrej. Chellarams were the oldest group with diversified business activities. In fact, I was told that in the early years of 20th century, if an Indian was seen on the road, he was known as Chellaram and not as an Indian. Let me also mention that many of these Sindhis were not borrowers and were dealing with us for import of goods. They were also millionaires in dollars. I was pre-warned that the Sindhi dinners will start late and end late, but I had no idea how late it would be. They were invariably held in their houses. Many had Nigerian cooks who were very good in cooking and could make Indian dishes once they are taught. So, for my first dinner, which was a farewell dinner for my predecessors, I reached around 9 pm. It started with drinks. Being a teetotaler, I had some coke. They, they started serving appetizers, which were called small chops. This went on and on. I was growing impatient. Finally, the dinner was laid on the table at 12:30 am. This was the regular pattern of all Sindhi dinners. The Sindhis discuss only business during the dinners. You can find out who is importing what, who is in financial difficulties, what new circulars are issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria, etc. On one occasion, I even saw the copy of a circular which was to be issued the next day by the central bank. Within a couple of days, I realized how important these dinners were. You would get all market information there. I gradually found out that I am committed on all weekdays for the dinners. Our office would be over by 3:30 pm. I will reach home by 4 pm and then take a nap for an hour so that I do not fall asleep during dinners. A couple of weeks after taking charge, I got an invitation for a lunch on Sunday by a very good customer, Mr. Buksani. I accepted the invitation and asked him what time should I come to his house. He said anytime convenient to me. I asked him whether 1:30 p.m. is okay. He said that would be excellent. I promptly reached by 1:30 p.m. I did not find any other car outside. I rang the bell and the servant opened the door. There were no guests inside. He invited me in and said he would call the master. After 10 minutes, Mr. Buksani came down from the first floor wearing a house coat. He was not yet ready to receive the guest. He apologized and said he would join me in 10 minutes. I was served a soft drink. He finally joined me after half an hour. Still no sign of other guests. The first guest walked in at 3 pm. Slowly people started coming in. All were having drinks and small chops. No sign of food. I thought maybe the lunch consisted of only snacks. I was wrong. Food was served at 5:45 pm. In fact, when I shared my surprise about the late serving of lunch with one of the guests, he told me that we should come for Sindhi lunches only after taking lunch at home. Well, that was the first and last lunch I attended. I told everyone that I would attend dinners on weekdays but never during weekends. It worked very well. I also I should also mention there were a few exceptions. Mr. Jeta Daryani, another enterprising businessman, once called me for dinner. I will write about Jeta later. He was an inspiration for me for maintaining punctuality. I jovially asked him whether I would get the dinner before midnight. He said that dinner would be served sharp at 9:30 p.m. Believe it or not, the dinner was served exactly at 9:30. His selection of guests was also very interesting. In fact, in India, he used to live in New Delhi in Prithviraj Road in a palatial house. His wife was a great hostess. When I was in Delhi, he used to call me for dinner, and I was always sure of meeting the Nigerian High Commissioner and some bureaucrats there. Interestingly, he had no dealings with Bank of India in Delhi. It was a pure friendship call. In all his dinners, his wife Maya Daryani will decide who will sit where and personally take care of each and every guest. It was always a sit down dinner. Each time it will be a different menu. Mr. B.B. Garg was the MD of Bhusan Group. I knew this group from Kenya. Mr. Garg was a pure vegetarian and also a teetotaler. I was curious to know whether he would be serving drinks. To my surprise, he served only soft drinks. He was a man of principles. This gave me courage. Till then, I was wondering whether I should serve drinks at home when I invite customers. Personally, I had strong reservations. I then decided not to serve drinks, so I did not set up a bar in the house. I also made it a point to make a list of people who called me for dinners, and I would reciprocate by calling them home. I used to entertain 10 to 15 couples at a time. My wife used to make a lot of South Indian items like dosa, idli, etc., which the Sindhis used to enjoy as they were not in their menus. I made it a point to serve the dinner by 9:30. Some of the Nigerian customers also used to invite us for lunch or dinner. They would be quite formal. Once we were only five, still the host got up and made a speech welcoming us. I also had to respond. Once the first secretary at the High Commission invited me and my wife for a dinner. Both of us went. There were other couples. After some time, I asked the host about his wife. He coolly replied that she had gone to India. Of course, he had an Indian cook, but I felt very strange. Perhaps he was trying to exhaust his entertainment budget. It was difficult initially to keep on taking soft drinks. Then someone suggested that I should take Chapman. It is a cocktail of soft drinks with bitter lemon and will be poured in a big glass and used to look like whiskey. You cannot consume it fast like a soft drink. You can hold it and sleep slowly. It was an invention by an Englishman called Chapman, so it was named after him. I should also mention that Lagos had good Chinese, Lebanese, and Italian restaurants. There were also a couple of Indian restaurants. I used to host dinners at the Indian restaurant. Normally, there will be a lot of leftovers. I used to request the waiter to make a doggy bag so that I could give it to my driver who was fond of Indian food. It so happened someone else invited me for dinner at the Indian restaurant. Then, also to my embarrassment, the waiter himself took the trouble of giving me the doggy bag. I had to laughingly explain to my host my practice. That also reminds me a story about Mr. Parulekar, our former ED. It appears he once attended a dinner hosted by a customer. At the end of the dinner, the customer asked for a doggy bag. Afterwards, Mr. Parulekar told the general manager that our money will be safe with this person. I also learned a few lessons from all these dinners. Whenever the High Commissioner is a guest, never leave the dinner until he departs. Always praise the food. Once a customer took me to an Indian restaurant and ordered a pizza. He asked me how it was. I politely told him that somehow I did not like it. For the next 1 year, whenever we met, he should he would say, Sorry for that lunch. When you host a farewell party, ask the chief guest whether he would like us to invite anyone in particular. When the High Commissioner hosted a farewell dinner on my transfer, he asked me to give the names of at least three couples. Never absent yourselves from any of the functions hosted by the High Commission. The dinners should not be one-way traffic. You should also reciprocate. If there are constraints to host at home, take them to a restaurant. Do not have any inferiority complex because you are a teetotaler. People respect you for the way you deal with them. Visit of executives. If there was one event which all the expatriate officers were looking forward to, it was the visit of our executives to attend our board meetings. Normally, the meetings were held once in 3 or 4 months. It was a good occasion for the officers who were in skill 3 and 4 to interact with general managers, executive director, and chairman freely. Such an opportunity they would not have got in India. Normally, the executives would be quite free and relaxed when they visit us. They would not be disturbed by phone calls. Thank God there are no mobiles or paperwork. In those days, 1984 to 1989, Allied Bank was the only affiliate with a separate board. All the other offices were our own branches or representative offices. They will be visited by either the chairman or GM International. Our board had two general managers as directors with alternate directors as well. So other general managers also used to get an opportunity to visit Nigeria. Normally only one executive used to come, but on a few occasions we had two executives also visiting us. Mr. Eddie Rege was GM International when I took charge. He was a towering personality, very systematic and a man of few words. Because of his position, he knew most of the Sindhi customers who all had connections or accounts with our London, Hong Kong, Japan, and Singapore branches. During Sindhi dinners, Mr. Rege will ask me whether I knew a particular customer. Then he would tell me that he is a NPA customer of a foreign branch. This enabled me to work out a compromise for our foreign branches by giving such customers some facility at our end. Many of the foreign branches, especially London, were heavily dependent on business from Nigeria. Mr. Rege also gave me very valuable advice, which I repeat below for the sake of younger generations. Quote, you are in a foreign country working with a boss who is not a Bank of India man. Even though he is a good person, you may have a different opinion in a matter. Express your opinion freely, pointing out the pros and cons of the issue, but leave the final decision to him. If he overrules you, do not make it an issue. Always bear Bank of India's interest in your mind. Talk to me once in a month, briefing me about all the developments about the country, bank, etc. Unquote. Needless to say, I sincerely followed his advice. After Mr. Rege, Mr. K.C. Chakraborty took charge of international department for a brief period. Thereafter, Mr. Bhavnani was in charge. If Mr. Rege was like a typical boss, Mr. Bhavnani was a very friendly type. He, being a Sindhi himself, knew about all the customers. In fact, Mr. Bhavnani gave me a very interesting advice. When you visit a Sindhi house, do not stop with the drawing room. Under some pretext, go to the washroom to see the interior part of the house. You will have an idea whether he is really rich or not. Both Mr. Rege and Mr. Bhavnani were very matured people. I had seen Mr. Bhavnani dealing with a couple of sensitive matters with a lot of maturity and tact. Mr. N.S. Parulekar also used to come for board meetings. His visits used to be hilarious. Since he had worked in Japan and Hong Kong branches, he also knew all the Sindhi customers. Right from landing at the airport till he boarded a plane back, he will be pulling others' legs and cracking jokes. We could discuss many things with him freely. Parties were full of life when he was around. In one party, Sindhi businessman introduced his son and told Mr. Parulekar that his son was very brilliant. Without batting an eyelid, Mr. Parulekar told him that the boy was taken after his mother. During my tenure, I had the privilege of receiving the chairman of the bank, late Mr. Tiwari. He was very nice to us. However, on arrival, he asked me why the first secretary from the High Commission did not come to receive him. I was shocked. I told him we had no such practice. He said he is of the rank of additional secretary in Government of India, and therefore the first secretary should have come to receive him. Anyway, spoke to the High Commission and got an official to see him off at the airport. Mr. Gorg, about whom I had mentioned in my earlier dispatch, had invited Mr. Tiwari for dinner. Gorg told me that he is also inviting a number of Nigerian bureaucrats for the dinner. When I went to pick up Mr. Tiwari at the hotel, I found him wearing a safari suit. I suggested to him that he should wear a full suit for the dinner. Now I wonder how I had the courage to talk to a chairman like that. He told me that when you are invited to someone's house for dinner, there is no need to wear a formal dress. Well, I learned one lesson in social etiquette. There was another incident with Mr. Tiwari. Mr. Lalu Mehatani, a very good customer, had hosted a dinner in honor of the chairman. He had booked an entire restaurant for the night. I informed Mr. Tiwari that the Sindhi dinners will be late affairs. He told me very clearly that he would like to sleep the dinner by 10:30 p.m. I informed Lalu about this and requested him to ensure that an early dinner is served. He reluctantly agreed. We reached our by 8:30 p.m. Quite a few guests had turned up because of the visit of the chairman. However, by about 10 p.m., Mr. Tiwari told me that he would like to leave. There is no sign of dinner. People are merely drinking and talking. I called the host and told him to hurry up. By 10:30, Mr. Tiwari again said he would like to leave. I literally begged him to give me 15 more minutes. By 10:45, the dinner was served. Thank God, it was a buffet, so we had a quick bite and left by 11 p.m. I learnt later that the dinner was over by 1 a.m. I must mention about the soft side of Mr. Tiwari. It was customary for us to buy mementos for visiting dignitaries. Mr. Bello was particular about this. We used to take the executives to a supermarket and get some things which they liked. We also took Mr. Tiwari to the market. Even though he was not keen to buy anything, we forced him to take a few things. While we were at the airport to see him off, he suddenly put something in my pocket and said, "Keep this. You have spent a lot." He did not give me any time to return the money and ignored my protests. Later I found out that he had given me $400. After 2 months, I went to India on my vacation. I called on the chairman. The first thing he asked me was whether I was given a car by HO. I told him that there was no need since I was going to stay in Mumbai for only 2 days. He would not listen. He rang up his secretary to ensure that a car is kept at my disposal till I left Mumbai. Then he asked me whether I need any money. I told him I was perfectly okay and thanked him profusely. I was overwhelmed by his kindness. People at International Department were surprised that a car is given for a Scale 4 officer. When Mr. Theory visited Lagos, he was aware about a request for an officer with forest knowledge to replace Mr. B.R. Parthasarathi. He had asked me whether I had any one to mind. Since I had worked only in Tamil Nadu in India, I did not know about officers in other places. I gave him the name of Mr. K. Rajagopal, who was the dealer in Chennai. Even though I had not worked with him, I had heard about him. Mr. Tiwari noted the name in a small piece of paper and put it in his wallet. Later on, Mr. Parulekar had selected an officer from Mumbai, and the note went to the chairman for approval. It appears he called Mr. Parulekar and digged out that small slip from his wallet and told him to send Rajagopal to Lagos. It was done. Mr. Parulekar was not happy. He called me over phone and told me that such things I should leave it to HO. He said if I choose an officer and he did not perform, the blame will be on me. Besides being South Indian, I should not have chosen another South Indian, which will create unnecessary talk. I took his advice in the right spirit. What amazed me was the memory power of Mr. Tiwari. In those days, there are no formal interviews for foreign postings. It was decided by head office executives based on recommendations of general managers or other HO executives. Tailpiece. A Nigerian was driving a car with a skull on the front seat. His friend asked him why he is traveling with a skull. He replied that he was told that two heads are better than one. Digital executives continued. Mr. H. N. Basuvala, GM Legal, was a well-known legal luminary. When I was working in South Zone 1966 to 79, I have heard a lot of stories about him. He was considered as a terror. His letters used to be strongly worded. In one instance that I remember, he was handling a complicated documentation for one of our well-reputed borrowers. As the principal signatory, a lady of prominence was going abroad within a week. A request was made by the general manager to expedite the documentation. Pat came the reply, I cannot work according to the travel plans of Mrs. So-and-so. However, his opinions were very clear and unambiguous. His drafting of our various printed documents are superb and held by the banking industry. Many leading banks adopted them for their own use. When we heard he is coming to Lagos to attend the board meeting, we were a bit nervous. So it was a pleasant surprise when we met him at the airport. He was very simple, laughing, and very affectionate while talking to us. I just could not believe that he was considered as a terror. I put him in the hotel for the night. Next day morning around 7:30 I got a call from him saying he was a problem and I should rush to the hotel. Not to waste time, I immediately drove to the hotel and knocked on the door. He opened and said, Ramakrishnan, what is happening here? I ordered a breakfast 1 hour before and it is yet to come. Whenever I call room service, they always say it is on the way. I told him that in Nigeria one should never try to order room service. It is always better to go to the coffee shop. I took him to the coffee shop. There is no further trouble for him during his stay. He organized a seminar on agriculture in coordination with Ibadan University. I must mention here that Nigerians are generally well educated. They are always eager to learn more and more. Mr. Bello wanted me to invite someone from Bank of India to give a talk. At that time, Dr. Pathak was general manager in charge of agriculture. Though I had no personal contact with him, I had heard about him as very good in academics. So I spoke to the AGM in charge of international development, let us call him Mr. X, and informed him that he would like to invite Dr. Pathak. He told me that it was a very good choice. As suggested by him, I sent a letter of invitation. Dr. Pathak accepted the same and landed in Nigeria. He gave a very good lecture which was well appreciated by the audience, which consisted of many scholars and government officials. Dr. Pathak was very happy. Then, while talking to me, he said, was it not nice on the part of Mr. X to have suggested his name for the lecture? I was simply stunned. I never knew that people of the rank of AGM will play such dirty tricks to get a good name from a top executive. It was a lesson. I felt I should have spoken directly to Dr. Pathak instead of going through the proper channel. Dr. Pathak suggested that we should get a good agriculture officer on deputations for about 3 months so that he can train the local officers. He suggested the name of Dr. B.R. Rai. I think the initials are correct. It is a pity that later on Dr. Rai died under tragic circumstances while in service. We agreed and Dr. Rai landed after a couple of months. We put him up in a five-star hotel. However, he was uncomfortable there, so we fixed an apartment for him and also found out a Nigerian cook come servant who could prepare Indian food. After a couple of days, Dr. Rai told me he has a problem. He said the servant comes only at 7 a.m. I told him that it should be all right since by 8 he could have his breakfast. Dr. Rai said breakfast is not a problem, but he is not able to get his morning tea at 6 a.m. I was surprised. In Nigeria, there is no packet milk like in India. You get only imported condensed milk in small tins, Peak being a well known brand. Tea bags were available. I told Dr. Rai that he could make his own tea as there are enough stocks of milk and tea at his apartment. He gave a reply which I could never forget. He said, Ramakrishnanji, I have never made a tea in my life. I do not know how to make a tea. I just did not know what to say. Anyway, we managed to get the servant come at 6 a.m. I was then wondering whether our training colleges should have some cooking sessions to teach our officers the basics in cooking, as many of them have live alone, leaving their families in one place. A very impressive visit was that Mr. K.L. Samant, who was the chief executive of UK branches. In fact, Mr. Samant was particular that I should stop over in London for a week before going to Lagos. It gave me a good opportunity to familiarize myself with many accounts and to know how vital is Nigerian business to Bank of India. Samant was a dynamic executive. He gave me a very valuable advice. If something went wrong happens, we should report the matter to head office immediately instead of trying to hide or rectify ourselves. He said half the problem will be over since you will not be blamed for hiding things. I always tried to follow this advice wherever I worked. Mr. Samant came down and spent 3 days in Lagos. He spent most of his time in lunches and dinners and playing cards with common Sindhi customers. Of course, we also took him to the Central Bank of Nigeria to meet the Deputy Governor. He was always cracking jokes with my senior Nigerian officers. I never saw him taking any notes. It was like a pleasure trip, but it was totally wrong. After he reached London, within 48 hours, I received a copy of 15-page report on his visit with a lot of information which I gathered while moving with the businessman. Of course, he had also informed in his covering letter to HO about the breakfast he had at my house, mentioning that the idlis were of very high quality. International department officers called me and told me about the breakfast and surprised me. I had also the privilege of receiving Mr. B.V. Sonalkar, who was the chairman of Central Bank of India. He was one of the fine executives of Bank of India who rose to the position of executive director. A very strong personality. In fact, in 1965, he was the sub-manager of Madras, now Chennai branch, and he was in the panel which interviewed me. Personally, it was a matter of great pleasure for me to receive him. He was accompanied by Mr. J.V. Sethi, General Manager of Central Bank of India, who later became the chairman of Canada Bank. I was also told about the visit of a top executive named Withheld during my predecessor's time. While at Lagos, he received the news about his parents' demise. That evening, he was to attend a reception hosted by the bank. My predecessor offered to cancel the reception, but the executive said that his personal grief should not come in the way of his official commitments. He only said that he would observe fast and would not have any dinner. It was a good gesture. If anyone reading this knows his name, please do not mention it. We should honor his privacy. Tailpiece. In the early days of the 20th century, a bachelor named Ram Himmani came to Nigeria to work with a company in Kanu in North Nigeria. Already there were three other Indians working there, sharing an apartment. Ram Himmani also joined them. They had a Nigerian cook. In the morning, Ram went down and met the cook for the first time. His friends were sleeping. The cook smiled and said the Inakoana. Ram replied, Ram Himnani. Next day also Ram came down and the cook told him Inakoana. Ram also replied Ram Himnani. Same dialogue continued for the third day also. Ram got annoyed. He complained to his friends. Look, the cook is introducing himself every morning. I am also giving my name. We have to stop this. His friends laughed and told him what he was not introducing himself. He was greeting you good morning in house language, in Hausa language. You should respond to him in his language. So next morning, Ram came down and before the cook could open his mouth, greeted him Inakawana. The cook gave a big grin and responded Ram Himnani. The episode Nigerian Experiences is continuing. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, subscribe and share.